How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Today, we are on episode 2 of season 1 for the Magic of Filmmaking podcast. And for today, I have a bit of a treat. Yes, it's a little, I don't want to say outdated, but it's not as relevant, but I'd figure it's still a little fun thing to do. So obviously, I have my reviews for the Magic of Filmmaking. Most of these have been reviews, especially considering the first episode was a review. But now we are trying something different. We are doing a versus, where we take two movies, we put them against each other to see which one is better. You're probably wondering, how do we do this? I literally just take two random movies. They don't have to be from the same franchise. They can be from two different genres. They can even be two completely different studios. Honestly, they could be two different whatever. Doesn't matter. And I'll compare them. So, without further ado, let's introduce the opponents. On one side, we have the most recent Christopher Nolan film. The one starring Cillian Murphy, about the man who gave us the power to destroy ourselves. I am, of course, talking about Barbenheimer. You can probably see where this is going. And on the other side, we have Greta Gerwig's most recent movie, starring Margot Robbie, about the doll who, good lord, was on every single ad in my childhood. Yep, I'm talking Barbie. I know. Barbenheimer's the most 2023 thing, and it's 2025. I don't care. It's my show. If you don't like what I do, you can get the right on out and go watch another podcast. But today, we are comparing these two in 5 categories. Now, I must be clear. With each versus episode, the 5 categories will be different depending on what movies we're comparing. But for today, how we will compare Oppenheimer and Barbie? The 5 categories will be story, characters, entertainment, music, and of course, filmmaking. And with a relatively limited amount of time I have, I need to get this done. So, let's just jump straight on in and talk about the stories. So, the story of Oppenheimer is relatively complicated to follow. And I'll try not to be too hard on spoilers. A, because some of you may not have seen the movie, which, holy God, you need to go see it. And B, I do not have the time to give you an entire plot summary in detail. So, we'll just make it short and simple. Oppenheimer follows the man Julius Robert Oppenheimer. And we see him as he starts in a relatively mean college, where he almost kills one of his professors, and so on. He graduates from college and moves to America, where the U.S. government wants to make an atomic bomb in order to combat with the Nazis, who are also supposedly working on an atomic bomb. Over the course of the story, we see Oppenheimer struggle with his personal life, a woman who loves him even though he's already married, and, of course, you have the titular main character being played by very talented Irish actor Cillian Murphy. The Oscar he won for this was actually the first Oscar ever won by an Irish actor. We have some other characters in here as well. Matt Damon playing the military general of this whole situation. Robert Downey Jr. playing Louis Strauss. Florence Pugh playing Jean Tadlock. And Tom Conti playing Albert Einstein. And we follow them as they go through and make the atomic bomb, figuring out all the sciences, all the things about atoms, and eventually getting to decide things such as where they will blow it up, how they will blow it up, what they'll do, and the whole process of creating a town in the middle of New Mexico, and also where they're going to drop it, especially after Hitler dies, bringing Nazi Germany to an end. And they have to find a place in Japan to blow up the bomb. we see Oppenheimer struggle after Jean Tadlock kills herself, though it is, of course, rumored that she, in fact, did not kill herself, and that supposedly someone probably killed her for assuming she was a communist. But, of course, the show must go on. They make the atomic bomb and blow it up, and, well, they ship more out to be dropped on Hiroshima and eventually one for Nagasaki. Oppenheimer feels extreme guilt, thinking that he's responsible for killing all those people. The president tells him that it's not his fault and that he should stop whining about it. And we have court drama where we figure out that people are trying Oppenheimer to see if he's a communist or not, and also figure out that someone's getting framed as a Russian spy. And at the epitome of it all, you have Robert Downey Jr. being tried and understanding that Oppenheimer has something to do with it. And we see Oppenheimer talking to Albert Einstein, confessing that he thinks that they are responsible for the end of the world. Now let's talk about Barbie. Let's make this one simple as well. So, Margot Robbie's Barbie is one of the many Barbies with their Kens. But Margot Robbie realizes that there's something wrong with her because she's losing all her magic abilities, and after talking to some Barbies, she goes to Crazy Barbie, played by Kate McKinnon, who informs Margot Robbie Barbie that something is wrong with her owner, who owns the doll version of her. And so Margot Robbie Barbie goes on an adventure to the real world, in which Ryan Gosling sneaks on board with her, and he goes to the real world as well. Margot Robbie goes to find her owner, who she thinks is a girl named Sasha, played by Ariana Greenblatt. Sorry if I mispronounced these names. And then realizes, later on, that her owner is actually Sasha's mother, Gloria, played by America Ferrera. And we see, as Barbie goes throughout the real world, gets arrested a couple times, and goes to Mattel, where when they realize that there's a Barbie in the real world, they say that they're just going to put her in a box and everything will be fine, but she refuses, and thus Will Ferrell goes to find her, the CEO of Mattel. Now, Ken discovers that men are truly superior, so then he goes back to Barbie Land to make the Kens more dominant over the Barbies. In the meantime, Barbie is discovering and understanding the true origins of Barbie and what she really means. But at the same time, she realizes that she doesn't really hold much power when she gets back and sees that the Kens have taken over, in which America Ferrera gives this extremely long speech about how women are expected to act, and, well, yeah, you can expect to know what's going on there. They form a plan, distract the Kens, and after some hijinks, the Barbies get control again, where Barbie, Margot Robbie Barbie, discovers that she wants to be her own person and not tied to being just a Barbie. And that's pretty much where it ends. Barbie changes her name to Barbara. America Ferrera gets over her thoughts about death that were plaguing Margot Robbie, and the movie ends with a fairy tale-ish ending. I promise this is going to be a lot longer than the other categories. Which story is better? Well, Oppenheimer's story is a lot more complicated than Barbie's. But Barbie's story, of course, is easier to follow. So it gets this question of, do you prefer the more simple, easy one to understand? Or do you prefer the more complex story? Oppenheimer might be a little more harder to rewatch than Barbie because it has such a complicated story, and Barbie's a lot more easier to follow. But at the same time, that means that Barbie's a little less sophisticated if it's a lot easier to watch because its story is simpler. Simple stories, of course, can be very effective, but at the same time, Barbie's is a little simple in the way that Oppenheimer probably benefits a little more from being complex. Oppenheimer is based on a real story. Everything that happens in there was real, and it was a complicated process, so the story needs to be complicated. Barbie, well, it's its own story about Barbie, really, and playing up all the satire, which, good lord, there is a ton of satire. And, in all honesty, I think Oppenheimer is a little long. All things considered, Oppenheimer is probably like 20 minutes too long. Like, you can tell they were trying to make this grand and epic by making it 3 hours, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that runtime could definitely trim off a couple, because they literally end it right at 3 hours, and it's like, yeah, it's a little desperate if you ask me. Where Barbie is relatively short and simple at 114 minutes. I'd actually argue that's also pretty long, because that's really close to 2 hours, but you know what? Less than 2 hours, that's actually fair enough. Whereas Oppenheimer, yeah, it's a little long. But does that make it worse than Barbie in terms of story? Honestly, I don't think so. But at the same time, the story is a little hard to follow as well. Like, you really need to watch Oppenheimer a couple times to fully understand the story. Barbie, you only have to watch it once to understand the story. And to be honest, look, I don't want none of you film snobs or cinephiles coming at me saying, no, you have to prefer the more complex story because it makes it absolute cinema. Simple stories are for babies. I'm sorry, but Oppenheimer, I feel like some people aren't going to want to watch a 3-hour movie where people are talking the entire time and watch it several times again and again. I actually prefer Barbie being more simple. Oppenheimer is, of course, really well done, and the story is very captivating, but, like, you look at, like, Killers of the Flower Moon, that's way longer than Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer's 3 hours, yet Killers of the Flower Moon justifies it being as long as it is. Where Barbie, well, yeah, it's a little long. I do think that it doesn't really drag at times, where Oppenheimer, it's like, how many times can they ask him if he's a communist or not? And yeah, that's pretty much the only problem with Oppenheimer's story, but it is a relatively decent problem, where Barbie, okay, yeah, it's not incredible or anything, but you know what, the story is simple, and it's meant to be entertaining and fun, and I think the story works enough for it, where Oppenheimer has the flaw of being way too long. So that point actually goes to Barbie. Next one is a big one. Characters. Yeah, unfortunately, this one is not very close. So, the characters of Oppenheimer, of course, Oppenheimer himself, Barbie herself. Which one of these two characters is better, before we get on to side characters? It's really complicated, because they're way different characters. Oppenheimer is mostly just, he never really learns anything throughout the movie, well, for the most part. It's mostly just about him and his vast adventure making this bomb, and eventually learning that what he did was not in any way beneficial to society. He realizes he actually, if anything, doomed society. Barbie is a very princess-y girl, but then when she realizes her owner's having problems, she goes to the real world, where she discovers that she can be more than Barbie. And, well, that's where Barbie's character thing is. It's basically a self-discovery kind of thing, where she learns who she truly is meant to be. But which one's better? I think Oppenheimer. Because Oppenheimer has a lot more to deal with on his shoulders, realizing that he technically committed an unforgivable sin. Even if he was just doing it for the science, he then has to come to grasp with how it truly was going to affect mankind. And also, Cillian Murphy is incredible in that performance. Like, no disrespect to Margot Robbie. She is just Barbie incarnate. I mean, her version of Harley Quinn is just basically Barbie, but psycho. So yeah, I think she works perfectly for Barbie. But Cillian Murphy, I don't know. I think it's the fact that he's just so captivating, and how well he's able to play this role so seriously, that yeah, he deserved his Oscar. And overall, I think his performance is what brings it up to being so cool, and overall a little better than Barbie. But let's look at side characters. With Oppenheimer, you have Emily Blunt playing Kitty, Oppenheimer's wife. She's pretty good in this role. She's overall really the character who's trying to keep Oppenheimer focused on the overall goal, and she plays it really well. Like, she didn't win Best Supporting Actress, but damn, she came close. She came close. Matt Damon plays Leslie Groves, aka the General, and honestly, he's alright. The character itself is not incredible, but Matt Damon does a really good job because he is a really good actor. And he does have a funny scene where he asks Oppenheimer what are the chances that they're going to destroy the world. Oppenheimer says chances are near zero, and he's concerned. Oppenheimer's like, what do you expect from science? And Matt Damon says, zero would be nice. With Barbie, we have side characters such as Ken, played by Ryan Gosling. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think he's that incredible. Like, I think Ryan Gosling does help by playing it up, but at the same time, I just don't find his character all that funny or entertaining. Of course, you have the "I'm Just Ken" song, but we'll get to that later. America Ferrera playing Gloria. Look, a lot of people were upset that she didn't win Best Actress because in a supporting role because of the speech she gave. And look, it was a good speech, but I don't think it was overall the only thing good enough to get her an entire Oscar. And honestly, I think overall her character's pretty good. But at the same time, it kind of feels like she only really exists to give that speech. And America Ferrera plays that speech really well, but then after that speech and before that speech, she's okay. Nothing to write home about. Ariana plays Sasha. Ariana, I really only know her from a show called Stuck in the Middle, which you probably haven't seen because it's for little kids. Her character is just straight up annoying. She's just so crass and sassy. It's like, look, I get that the rebellious teen has become kind of the hip character to play. I don't know. I don't like the way she does it. It's just so mean-spirited. I don't know a single girl who acts like her. My sister is annoying and sassy, but she's not even close to the level that Sasha is. Now, a lot of other characters aren't really nothing to write home about. Like in Oppenheimer, of course, you have Albert Einstein. But I think what gives Oppenheimer a bit of a boost is Robert Downey Jr. Yes, he has such an Iron Man to him because everyone knows him as Iron Man, but he plays his character so well, and you really feel that he is determined to figure out what to do at this court. And honestly, the black and white filter they put over his scenes are so captivating. I honestly think that he really pushes up Oppenheimer. I mean, he's not Cillian Murphy in this movie, but like, he's damn good. So honestly, I'm gonna say it. I think that Oppenheimer gets the point, mainly just because it has two really good characters, where Barbie only has 1.5. I say 1.5 because America Ferrera has one good scene, and the rest of it's okay. I don't want none of you Ken lovers, Ryan Gosling geeks to come at me, okay? I don't love Ryan Gosling, alright? It's just kind of a thing. Hit that one song sequence, that's not enough. I didn't find his character that entertaining. And Oppenheimer doesn't have very great characters aside from him either. But really, like, that's kind of the point. Cillian Murphy really does carry that whole movie and does a really good job with it. Let's move on to the next category, which is entertainment. For entertainment, it's actually not very close. Because Oppenheimer, it's a great movie. it's not very rewatchable. It's not really meant to be entertaining. It is meant to be this grand historical drama. But at the same time, that kind of works against his favor because it's not that like easily accessible. People who don't like Barbie might disagree, but like in general, I feel like even if you prefer Oppenheimer, it's not as easily rewatchable. It's long, it takes a lot out of you. Overall, Oppenheimer's a movie that I'd watch like every 5 years. That's something I could watch it and be happy. Barbie, this goes back to it being more simple. It's a lot easier to rewatch because it's more quick, more easy to just put on and have a fine time. So honestly, I think Barbie wins the entertainment aspect. A lot of you film snobs are gonna come at me and be like, "No, but simplistic isn't. That's not entertainment. That's baby noise. No, being true and Oppenheimer's true cinema." Look, I get it, okay, but like, I I want to have a movie that I can rewatch very often and not get annoyed, like Space Jam. Look, I love The Godfather. That's not a movie I'm gonna be able to watch very often. All right, all right. That was quick. Yeah, Barbie is a little more entertaining, so another point for Barbie. But let's not get too worried, Oppenheimer fans, for we still have 2 categories to get through. So let's honestly just jump right on in to the next category, music. Oppenheimer's music is entirely score. Barbie has a score, but it also has some musical numbers, both of which ended up being nominated at the Oscars. With Barbie's score, it's very, it's not incredible by any means. It doesn't use, like, intense orchestra. It's mostly just more fun stuff, stuff that little girls and, more people who like satire are going to enjoy. And I'm not saying that only little girls like Barbie. I know I've seen 20-year-old men who love Barbie. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. Movie that, let's just be honest, conservatives hate. Now, you do have some good songs in Barbie. I'm talking about the musical numbers. Of course, you have I'm Just Ken is really fun and just so like that's the moment that I like from Ken, is that song sequence where Ryan Gosling, that doesn't really make his entire character great, but I do like that one moment. That was good. But then you have the Billie Eilish song that ends up in this movie. It's kind of incredible how Billie Eilish managed to make a song that would end up in such a big movie. Though, to be fair, 2 years earlier, she did do a song for James Bond. And, yeah. And, yeah, her song is also really good as well. It's very deep and emotional. And it won Best Musical Number of the Year at the Oscars, which actually makes Billie Eilish the youngest person to win 2 Oscars. Just goes to show her talent. Oppenheimer, of course, relies entirely on score. But by God, its score is incredible. It is genuinely probably the best score in a Christopher Nolan movie. And that is saying so much. Because you have things like The Dark Knight, and you have Interstellar, and you have Inception. But nope, Oppenheimer's score has stuck with me the most. It's really hard to describe. Like, it's just so cinematic. And it just makes you feel so much about science that it deserved the best original score of the year. The question is, which one is better? Okay, look, Barbie has 2 really good songs. The score, aside from that, I'm just going to be honest, is kind of forgettable. I've completely forgotten it, and all I really remember from it is the 2 songs. Oppenheimer, the entire score helps the movie all the way through. And there's no wonder it's been played everywhere, because it is a really good score. And, well, that's like not just two songs, it's the entire score that really helps the movie, especially towards the end, where it just really makes you feel depressed. So, honestly, I'm going to give this to Oppenheimer. Don't worry. Everything's even now. We just have one more category to talk about to really decide which of these movies is the superior movie. Let's talk about the final category of Barbie and Oppenheimer, or Barbenheimer. The filmmaking. For filmmaking, it's complicated because how I define filmmaking is the overall process. Like the cinematography, the editing, the storyboards, the directing, the camera angles, and so on and so forth. All those nooks and crannies. Look, a lot of people are going to argue that this is unfair. Okay? I'll try to make it more fair. Barbie is well made. Okay? It has very good cinematography for the most part. It is well directed, really well directed. And I especially enjoy the editing and how it kind of makes it feel like it really does show how they're toys. And that aspect actually really adds to the style of it and really helps. Oppenheimer, I mean, Greta Gerwig definitely didn't deserve to be snubbed at the Oscars. People threw a fit over that she did a really good job directing, even though Christopher Nolan won. Cinematography, Barbie isn't meant to be, storyboarding, not storyboarding, camera, nope, not, oh, no, no. Yeah, Barbie gets destroyed. There is genuinely no aspect of filmmaking that Barbie does better than Oppenheimer. And it is really because, don't get mad at me, Christopher Nolan is a far superior director to Greta Gerwig. Like, Greta Gerwig's a great director, do not get me wrong, but like, Christopher Nolan is Christopher Nolan. For God's sake, he made the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, and of course, Interstellar, The Prestige, and that one movie with Al Pacino. Oh yeah, Insomnia. He is overall an incredible director who's had so much time to direct movies and so much experience, and he's so prestigious with how he does it. Honestly, Barbie had no chance here. Not just in directing, but in everything. Oppenheimer is shot better. The cinematography is far better. The movement of the camera is far better. I can't. Like, the only thing Barbie does better than Oppenheimer, I guess, is special effects. But that's really only because Barbie uses special effects and Oppenheimer doesn't. Which some people argue was to its disadvantage when they blow up the atomic bomb. Some people argue they should have enhanced it digitally because it didn't look enough like an atomic bomb. But, Barbie it doesn't have that much. Like, when I watched it, I just didn't think that it was that incredibly made. I was just like, a lot of directors could direct a movie this well. Look, I don't want none of you feminist friggin' people to come at me, okay? This isn't I don't want this to get political. Like, oh, you don't like Greta Gerwig because she's a girl and she directs this like a girl. Dude, I don't care, okay? I'm not conservative, I'm not liberal, I don't care. I know, because I've seen people get crashed on who don't like the way Barbie is made, and people, whenever they say that, people go after them for all these reasons that simply are not the real reasons, okay? Oppenheimer has incredible talent behind it. It is made to be a Best Picture winner. Okay, it wasn't made for that purpose, but it is the true definition of a movie that is made as powerful as it is, where Barbie is not meant to be that. So, sorry to the Barbie lovers, but the winner of this competition, 3-2, is Oppenheimer. Yep. I hope you guys don't get all mad at me for reasons that don't exist. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next episode of the podcast.